Alright. What's up, my cousin pups and Cineslut? Into episode 4. So this episode, I think was a very big pinnacle and turning point for everyone's opinion. I think across the board, I feel like anyone who watched this episode, this is a pretty big emotional one, and I think also just a big thing to show how deep this actually goes between Joe and Carol, and just the craziness of what all this is exactly. This is going to be a pretty long one, I think. I had a lot of notes on this. There's a lot of issues to delve into on both sides, and just I think going forward, a lot of these reviews are going to be a little bit longer, just because I can't talk about it. There's a lot to go into in each one of them, and there's just so much to go into. So if I do miss stuff, again, I apologize. I'm trying my best with getting everything into here. The main thing, the last thing I forgot about the last episode was the introduction of basically the Here Kitty Kitty music video that he had, which is just a cinematic brilliance if you watch it or listen to it. Surprisingly, I mean, most of his music, I'm sure it's very well, it's well edited by his producer and everything, isn't too terrible. They start off the 4th episode with his song, and I actually had to go and listen to it because I was like, this is pretty catchy, actually. The music videos themselves make absolutely no sense. It's mainly just him holding guns the entire time and standing in front of the tigers, which I guess his whole power mentality thing shows out through all that. But if you have a chance, go check out some of them. Here Kitty Kitty is a good one, and I Saw Tigers, another really good one. But yeah, check them out if you can. I mean, supporting him is not the greatest idea, but I mean, his stuff's still up on YouTube for now, so if you get a chance, I'd go and watch it. Leading into his music videos, he talks about his escape from reality. I didn't really think he'd need an escape. I guess everyone does, but his whole mantra throughout this is he's living his dream. He owns these tigers. He's doing whatever he wants. I mean, granted, he's trying to escape from Carol and everything like that, but why does he need to escape from reality if he already has everything he wants at this point, maybe besides having the monkey on his back, basically Carol coming down on him constantly. But again, I think the whole idea with his music is just feeding into his ego. He needs to feel like he's bigger than life, and I think his music videos and his ideas of singing throughout this is a way of getting his message across, but it's also feeding into him to show, look, I have all this talent, and I have all this production, and these people are going to back me because I'm already the Tiger King, so I might as well be him. I kind of jumped a little bit ahead, but I'm going to talk about that whole mentality of him being the Tiger King. It's just it's a continual power trip for him. You start to see in the beginning of this episode his downfall of who he is and what he actually is. He's no longer Joe. You start to see throughout this episode he becomes a caricature of himself. And then he goes into, after the whole music video idea, he goes into saying that Carol and him are making money off each other. This is another thing to show that both of them aren't in it anymore for the animals. They're in it for fame. This fame to show them they are better than one another. They're the best thing that's ever out there. Their platform is what you want to be in tune to. It's not about taking care of these animals anymore. It's about who can be the biggest entertainer and who can bring in the most money. Which Joe at least admits. He admits to that. He's starting to lose sight in who he is, and he's here to make money and slam Carol. Granted, I think he thinks in his ideas of slamming Carol is going to show that his park and everything is actually right. But I think with both of them just constantly going at it, it just shows the character of who they are. They aren't genuine people. They aren't great people. They aren't here to help the environment. They aren't here to conserve these animals. They're using these animals as a platform to promote themselves, which, again, Joe at least admits it. Carol, again, is going to sit there till the day she dies, showing that I am and will always be the biggest cat rescue and the biggest cat conservationist there is out there. You're not. You never will be. It's not going to happen. As you can tell, I hate Carol. I hate the idea of who she is and what she does throughout this entire series, and just who she is and who she perpetually continues to be. I should have been more fervent about how much I hate her in the last episode, but I mean, it's just going to keep coming out and out and out. And then they cut to Howard, the new husband, which they show throughout the thing, and they show the amount of fighting they have dedicated just towards Joe. They have, I think it's like 2.5 full file cabinets just against him. Where and why? Granted, he's constantly coming after her, coming at her about her rescue and her practices and everything. But why are you so dedicated to this one person, this one roadside zoo? Yeah, granted, he has such a following, and I understand why you're trying to take down them. But at the same time, you're focusing your efforts just on this one person. Your efforts could be spread vast and wide into actually helping these wildcats and helping their environment and helping what you have there, but you're so fervent in just shutting down this man that is, granted, he's throwing threats out there and everything against you, which I get, you want to take down someone that's doing that, but you aren't doing it in the right manner. You're showing, yes, Joe's has cup petting and everything and how it's a negative thing to help these animals, but you're not showing what else you could be going out against and what you could be doing to help these animals. You're just going against this one guy. There's so many other issues out there that you could be doing for it, but instead you focus on this one man, this one problem, and that's all you're doing. And you're doing it to gain more popularity. You're not doing it for any animal rights activism or anything like that. You're doing it for yourself, and she's so selfish and caught up in it, and so is Joe. Anyone in this show, pretty much, there isn't like a shining light in this show at all for anybody. There might be one or two, and they don't really show through until like the very end of the series, but even then, there's still some darkness behind those people that you can't really say they're that great, which no one is. No one's perfect, obviously, and that gets brought up throughout the entire thing. They do mention the whole idea of the social media influence. Granted, they started coming up, I think, way before, obviously, social media was a thing, and then they realized what that platform can do for them. Again, I'm saying for them because it's not for the animals. It's all for them. It's all grubbing for money. It's all showing that they can be the biggest entertainer that's out there. How can they bring more money in? Yes, more money means more care for these animals, but again, later in this episode just gets me so heated about what they're actually doing and how they're going about it. Carol, again, her whole power trip of they show Doc and Joe, and they show that she had put so much influence and so much money into making sure every time someone searches anything about big cats or rescues, her name is at the top. She is the pinnacle. Again, she wants to show that she is a god amongst, I keep saying god with all these people, but they want to show that they are number one in anything that's being searched about big cats, which is ridiculous. Like, again, you shouldn't be doing this for the fame. Granted, I get you're trying to pull money in for your rescue and everything like that, but again, you're doing it to show that, oh, look at me on this social media, look what I'm doing, look how I'm doing all this. No one else is doing anything better than I am. If you were really for the rescue and the savior of these animals, you should be showing and showcasing everything that everyone else is doing that's doing such big things for them. She's not raising money for research. She's not raising money for the habitats and stuff like that I can see. She's raising money for herself. This woman in this last episode has millions of dollars now. What more could you possibly want at this point? You have the animals, you have the money, but instead you're trying to bring in so much money. Yes, you need a constant flow of income to have it, but you don't need these extra millions and millions and millions of dollars to do the same thing you're doing every day. You're doing the same thing every day. You're bringing people in to showcase the animals. That should be enough money. Granted, I don't know for sure how much it takes to run a rescue, but again, she's not running a rescue. She's not rescuing too many more animals than she has in there at this point because she doesn't have the space, she doesn't have the facility. If you have that kind of money, you should be able to expand. You should be able to throw money into being able to create environments and habitats for other areas and other countries and stuff like that. Instead, you're filtering into what you have now. You should be filtering that money into rescuing the animals that are there and making sure they have a quality of life, which you aren't. They show the cages that she has. They show the feedings that she has. It's nothing grandiose compared to what Joe has. If anything, Joe looks like he has more space for the animals than she does. She has, and the other issue is that she claims that she has so many animals on this property. You go around and look around, and Joe even did like a surveillance of it. There aren't all these animals, so she's lying. She's just constantly lying to bring in more money. Again, Joe's doing the same exact thing, but the biggest reason I have such an issue with her is that she has this platform for these animals, and she could really like show that, like, look, I could do all this with all this money, but again, she's not. She's putting all the money into herself and into her own outfits and everything like that, and making it seem like she is such a godsend for these animals, which she isn't. This episode really also delves into how petty Joe can be. He decides to rebrand his entertainment as Big Cat Rescue Entertainment. He basically copies Big Cat Rescue and all the logos and everything, just switches it around a little bit. This also really starts delving into the lawsuit issue of everything that's going on, and the lawsuit isn't really for the animals at this point. The lawsuit is at for Carol, for her own profit at this point. Which, again, I keep delving in. I'll delve into it later. He's basically just antagonizing Carol at this point. What's the point of doing this? I don't understand it. I don't get it. No matter how hard Joe's gonna fight to show that she's undermining everything, you're not gonna do it. Most people, like, it's not gonna happen. You have a sanctuary rescue that's supposedly doing well, and you already have so much bad publicity against yourself, meaning Joe. You're not going to be able to pull yourself out of the quicksand that already is your demise. He already has too much against him. Yes, he has all these followers and everything like that, but Carol's already created a platform so far above you that you're not going to be able to pull her down. You're not going to be, and you're not going about it the right way, the way you're bashing her, the way you're trying to do all this and everything. So again, I go off on little tangents about this, and I just have to get back to my notes on everything. So yeah, he's antagonizing her. There's no point in doing this. There are several other routes he could go to make sure she gets shut down. Go through the law, go through petitions, go through the nonprofit organizations to actually take interest into the idea of maybe she isn't doing what she fully is doing. Maybe she's duping the nonprofits and everything like that. Maybe we could find a way to work together to do this, but he is so against animal rights activists, even though he should, in himself, which I don't know why he doesn't consider himself, even though obviously he isn't, considering himself an animal activist. You want to help protect these animals and help save these animals, Joe, but you're sitting here saying that all these animal rights activists are against me because they don't understand how animals operate and act and everything like that. It's just mind-blowing to see such a disconnect between him and Carol, even though they're pretty much the same person, just operating at different areas and different platforms and different societies, even though they're the same person. The big issue about when Carol starts suing Joe is not over what he's doing with the animals. It's more so she's suing him over his copyright. It's basically copyright infringement is what she's going after. She isn't going after his practices. She's going after, well, I made my name. I'm not trying to sound condescending. You're going after my name and what I've built, which I get. Like, you're trying to go after, you're not trying to be tied into what he's doing, but you're also dragging yourself into what Joe's doing because you're coming down to his level of pettiness at this point. She could be going after what he's doing with these animals, but instead she'd rather focus the idea that she's like, I want to get rid of his image and everything like that. And it also basically shows the government, they go through some of the cases that he's going through. The government really doesn't care what Joe's doing. They could have investigated what he's doing and seeing why Carol's actually going after him, but instead they're only cared about the copyright. Like, cool, like, yeah, you don't want him to have the same image as you do, but again, no one here is questioning on what he's doing. They're just questioning on his logo, which is wild to think that's all they care about. They could have, I feel like most of these places, most of these nonprofits could shut down Joe no problem, but they decide not to go after him for whatever reason, and Carol's, it seems like, the only one for at this point. And I don't get why it's only Carol. I guess because it's the biggest proponent at this point that's going against them. That's why they focus on her so much. But again, it's not about the animals at this point. It's more so about their money. Where can they both get money from each other just so they can continue doing what they're doing. Joe does file a countersuit. That shows no avail at any point. It just gets to the point that Joe just keeps making more and more issues for himself. He makes the whole website. He's a savage at this point about it. He makes a whole website about who killed Carol's ex-husband. The fact that he's willing to go this far and to continue and continually antagonize her. If you want to get out of this, why are you still going at her? I don't get it. Like, just stop at this point. Try to recoup your losses and move on from it. You're not going to get rid of her. Like, granted, yeah, we go later in the episode. Everyone knows at this point that he tries to put out a hit on her. That's already common knowledge that he tries to do this. Like, you're not going to get rid of this woman. She's just going to keep coming at you. And I know you're trying to stop it, but maybe stop all these little bleeds before you completely undermine yourself at this point. There's no point in continually going after her. You know she has more money. You're not going to make more money than she is at this point. It's impossible. She has all this nonprofit backing, and she has all these people to kind of come back her. Yes, you have thousands and thousands of followers, but how much are they really going to back you when they realize you're going up against someone that's supposedly a rescue, which is supposed to be better than what you're doing? Again, this really starts to show at this point that it's not about the animals; it's about their money and their fame, which it's sad. This is why I had the biggest issue with this episode. It was hard to watch because it's really showing these people lost their paths and even caring about the animals, which I do believe at some point they did, but they didn't anymore. This is the big turning point that they're like, this is what is going to get me the money that I want, is this big feud, and that's why I think they continually keep doing it. And then they bring up, again, I think this guy is still my number one hated character. The person that they have working for them is Rick Kirkman. This man, he just continually films and films and films instead of stepping in or finding a way to be like, maybe this isn't what we should be doing. Maybe I could help out with everything, or maybe I should turn this in a different direction. But instead, he says it's just there's. He doesn't even view this as an issue. He views his show as just a reality show, that this only affects a small area or small population of people or animals at this point. He literally says it's a crazy comedy between exotic animal lovers. These people, yes, are lovers of animals, and the fact that you use the word crazy, it all goes together. Yes, I understand that, but you're literally saying that these two people are going at each other. It makes no difference. It's not real. It's not really a problem. It's not really an issue. It's just all for good TV, which it isn't. You're seeing firsthand, because he's on that zoo 24 hours, 7 days a week. He's seeing the detriment that's coming from all this, but yet he continually films. He even says, this is everything I could have dreamed of. This is really what you could have dreamed of. Animals being in cages and enslaved, that's an idiotic word that I just used for that, but it being in cages and treated poorly. This is what you dreamed of. You dreamed of two people abusing animals to make money off of. This is what you really wanted. Like, this is what the biggest issue I have with this man. He's giving such a wide view into this life. Like, I get it, you're trying to show, like, maybe this will deter people from wanting to do this, but this also just kind of shows that, like, look, I could do this and get all this fame and everything from it, which is ridiculous. Like, you're willing to put these people at risk and these animals. The biggest thing is these animals at risk, instead of stepping in and being like, look, I have this power to film all this, maybe I can do something with it, but you weren't. He's just sitting there the entire time. He couldn't care less about the animals at this point. He couldn't care less about Joe's thing. He cares about himself, which I get. Everyone has to look out for themselves to make money, to do what they have to do to get by, but you're doing it all wrong. You're going about it all the wrong path. You could really help. You have the ability to help these animals and these people, but instead you're just sitting back going like, wow, this is going to be the greatest find that I've ever done. And then he mentions that Joe's actual biggest passion. Shout out to Andrew. We found these Samuel Adams glasses in our basement, so shout out to Andrew. Just because he loves Samuel Adams, pretty much. But Joe's biggest passion, he does mention, is that he wanted a reality show. What? Like, why? Like, why do you want a reality show that bad over... Is that why you wanted the animals to begin with? Again, later episodes will reveal a little bit more of this, but what changed from you wanting to protect these animals to you wanting this reality show? Is I'm going to assume it's the whole power trip that he has, that he needs to be in front of a camera to show that he is the Tiger King, to show that he's better than everyone else. it's just upsetting to see that he changed such a far right or left direction on all this to show that he doesn't care about these animals. He doesn't care where his fame is going to take him because of these animals. He only wants that fame, and then as soon as he reaches his pinnacle point, wherever that pinnacle point is, I don't know where he thought he was going to get to at this point, but he's just so confident and full of himself that he is bigger than he actually is. And then the biggest, another big issue I have with Rick Kirkman, he has that whole scene where he makes Joe the Tiger King. Why would you feed into this man when you already know he is unstable? You know he's reaching a point of breaking with this fight against Carol, this whole, I am the Tiger King, I am the Tiger God amongst everyone. Like, you're feeding into a mentally unstable human being that is going to snap. And you know that because you're filming this reality show, and you wouldn't be filming this reality show if you didn't think someone was at that breaking point. You're feeding, I have put down, he's feeding in this disillusion of who Joe actually is. Is Joe actually Joe himself anymore, or is he just a character, like I mentioned earlier, a character of himself? Is this actually Joe anymore? Who is this man besides the Tiger King? Joe lost himself at this point, and that's what's so upsetting to see. This man, for someone who cared about the animals, that wanted to see something more for them and something more for the species, for all the different species, he lost himself completely. Like, this is so upsetting to see that fame and money and power can just do this to someone. That like, how do you reach that point and not look at yourself and go, what am I really doing this for anymore? Why am I doing this anymore? Is this something I even care about, or is it just fame? Like, take the animal aspect out of all of this and just start your own career at this point. Go back to your music and do little webisodes and stuff like that. Why does it still have to involve the animals? Because you're not caring for them anymore. Let's see, what else did I put? I gotta mention that he's all in it for the reality. He's not really in it for the care of the animals anymore. And then going back into this reality show is when the Carol props start showing up. He creates a blow-up doll for Carol just so he has something to kind of talk to throughout it. This is another thing. I just don't understand where the lines get crossed at this point, or where anyone can step in to kind of stop him, is he shoots the Carol doll. You're openly threatening and shooting someone and showing all this stuff, and no one's stepping in. No one's like, yes, I get it. They all trapped in a trapped mindset of being there on this zoo because they want to care for the animals and they actually want to see these animals be well, and you're trapped with a man that has a gun constantly strapped to him, and he has you there, but no one steps in. Everyone just feeds into this idea that, like, yeah, Carol, but yes, Carol's a horrible person just as much, but you're looking at this man and going, what he's saying is fine, I'm gonna stick behind him. Rick Kirkman, you had this videos, you had it all, and you could have shown all this to someone to maybe step in and do something about it and say, look, the livelihood of these animals is going downhill and the instability of this person is rising up. I should probably do something, or I should probably get someone to do something about it. You're not doing any of that. You're just sitting back and going like, wow, this is wonderful. I'm sitting back with my popcorn watching this. This is going to be the greatest discovery of my lifetime, finding this man, this sick, dark man, to be able to do all this. But again, at this point, I just don't understand. He just keeps antagonizing Carol. If you want your problem to go away, stop feeding into it. Just stop. I understand it's not easy. It's almost like an addiction to him. The addictive mindset of everyone. There's a lot of different theories on it. There's a lot of different facts on it. But he has an addictive trait to himself, obviously, with obviously drugs and this. It's just, you need to stop. Someone should have stopped him. Granted, he put himself around people that are just going to keep building him up and feeding into him. It's like, this is a great idea. Let's take down Carol. Let's do this. I honestly don't think Joe would have been put in this position if he just didn't keep antagonizing her. Granted, Carol's still feeding into it and he has to keep coming back. Like, I get that. Someone's coming at you. You want to protect yourself and what's around you. Maya's fed up with all my talking, so she's not going to have any more of this. But if he would have just stopped, he would have focused more on the animals and everything at this point. I don't think Carol would have kept coming at him as much. But that proves to no avail that he just keeps coming at her, so Carol's just going to keep fighting back. And that's his own damn fault at that point. Like, you've lost sight of who you actually want to be and who you want to be, which I get is hard to look in the mirror and ask yourself, like, what am I, who am I at this point, and what am I going to do about it? I'm sorry, also just watching this, the video quality is absolute shite on this computer because it's old as shit, but it's better than the how tiny the phone is to film it. Hold on, I'm going to ask Alexa to turn on the lights real quick. Alexa, turn on the living room. She didn't hear me, let's try it again. There we go. Shed a little light on the situation. I do apologize with how shitty the video quality is. What? Sorry. And then even the one guy they kind of cut to every once in a while is Tim Stark. He literally told, I don't know how true it is that he actually talked to him about it, but he told Joe to just stop. There's a way out of all of this, is just stopping. Just stop doing what you're doing. Stop these videos. Stop talking about Carol, and this should disappear for the most part. Yeah, you're going to still have legal battles with all this, but get back to who you are. Get back to who Joe Exotic is. But he decided, what better to do than antagonize this woman? What better do I have to do than to antagonize this woman, even though he doesn't think it's antagonizing her? And like I've been saying, Joe loses his touch. Not his touch, his sense of reality of who he is and what he actually is there for. Eric, the long-haired blonde guy with the glasses and smoking, well, I'm smoking cigarettes, but the long-haired blonde keeper that's there, he even says Joe loses sight of dealing with the big cats, and this is, let me see, is this the point where, sorry, I'm trying to go through my notes, I don't want to jump ahead of everything. No, that's later. I don't want to bring that up. Yeah. Sorry, this is why it's going to be long, because I have to scroll through everything. So, again, back to the whole antagonizing thing. Joe gets a picture of the Big Cat Rescue with the bashed in heads of those rabbits, which, again, is another issue in itself. He creates the sagas of Carol Baskin. He creates all these videos targeted just straight towards her. Now, it's no longer about just the videos of the animals and the upkeep of the animals. He's targeting this woman, which again, she's kind of targeting him, but again, he's feeding so much into this that she knows she has him. She knows what she's going to do with him, and no one's there to kind of be like, look, Joe, besides that Tim Stark guy, and I'm sure other people said so, like, maybe we should stop doing what we're doing, cut our losses now, and just deal with it. But Carol justifies her picture of these rabbits, saying, ooh, these animals, they're so excited to get these rabbits and the first good meal in a while. First good meal in a while. If you're a rescue, you should be providing top quality food. Not top quality, but these animals should be getting fed every day. A sufficient amount, and they should be fed properly. The fact that you have 3 rabbits, again, for how many animals did she say she had on this? I think over 100. That should be a clicking point for any non-profit or anybody that's following this woman, that you have 3 rabbits, maybe you have a little bit more to feed these animals. Why don't you have a sufficient supply of food to come in for these animals? That in itself is a worry. Maybe not so much the bashed heads of these animals, which again is fucked up. I mean, granted, these animals have to eat, but don't go displaying what you're with that. Display that, yes, they're getting fed and everything like this. And it's great that we had these donations of these rabbits, but don't show these keepers so happy about bashing in these animals' heads so they can feed their favorite animals. Though, like, I can't talk too much about it because I eat meat. I can't be like, oh, these animals deserve better lives and blah, blah, blah. But, like, these animals have to eat, yes, but, like, there's a way to go about feeding these animals instead of showcasing the brutality of feeding them these bashed rabbits wherever you got them from. Again, you should have a supply chain of food coming in. If you're getting all this fucking money from your donors. You should have such great quality food. You should have someone on staff being able to provide these animals, but you're not. You're showing off these pictures and how she's just trying to justify, oh, these animals are getting a good meal. They should always be having a good meal. There should be no question about where these animals' next meals are coming from. If you can't afford to have this food for these animals, have your rescue shut down. Have someone else come in and do it. You're not doing that. You're just proving more and more that your rescue is such a sham of what it actually is, and that it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I think a funny part of this episode, Joe again is still feeding into doing more antagonizing. They have the horse penis picture where they're like, come and suck this horse penis, Howard. And then Joe also, because he wanted to do the whole contradiction of the rabbit picture, so he shows the horse penis. Joe's protests in front of Big Cat Rescue. Yes, I get it, you want to protest against her, but you're already doing enough, I think, at this point to hurt yourself, that there's no reason to go in front of it. Everyone knows you're against her. Everyone knows what you're doing. Everyone knows what she's about. Why do you have to go there and really drive a stake in your coffin at this point? Like, this is such a detrimental thing to yourself. Again, you're losing sight of what you're doing. You're not saying let's shut down Big Cat Rescue because they're poor quality. You're going there because you hate Carole Baskin. Hi, Nike Noodle. Hi, Nike Noodle. You're losing sight of what you're actually here for. Like the whole, he dresses up in the bunny suit. I get it. But stop. Just stop. You're really hurting yourself at this point. And what happens at the end of all that? He has to end up paying Carole $1 million. What was the point of fighting so hard if you probably thought at this point, I'm going to have to pay out the money. There's no way I'm going to be able to fight this woman. And that's the biggest issue also. Carole has to drain Joe. He has to drain Joe of all this money. She knows he doesn't have that much money. She knows he's only bringing in a certain amount of money. I get to the point where you want to shut down Joe, but are you going to take in these animals? Are you going to find the right spot for these animals? I don't think you are, because you're obviously showing that with the bunny picture that you don't have enough facility and enough caretaking to be able to take care of the animals properly. And they even interview Howard. Again, there's a lot of talking coming from Howard and not enough from Carole. And the fact that she's not talking, I think, speaks volumes. That she can't defend herself for whatever reason, or she's too terrified to open her mouth, because I think she knows what she's doing is wrong to a point that she's like, all right, I'm just going to have Howard talk and make sure he says it in the right way just so I can't be blamed for anything, so she can put the blame on him if something comes back to him. And he says they've spent millions and millions of dollars. Are you using the millions of dollars that should be going to these animals and the upkeep of these animals just to fund taking down Joe? I think you are. Because where else are you getting the money besides, I don't think you're using your own money. You're obviously using money from your donors to fight Joe, which I get to a point. As a rescue, you're supposed to kind of back up your whole ideas of rescuing these animals, but the money that you're getting from your donor should be going towards the animals. You should be fighting him on your own time. You shouldn't be using your organization to fight against someone else. That's why there's other organizations out there. That's why there's the WWF and there's the Fish and Wildlife Services. You shouldn't be out here fighting this man by yourself. You should be reporting what you have to them instead of publicly going against this man constantly. Yes, you can make a statement saying, I'm not for what he's doing and everything, but this isn't on you. I don't get why you thought you need to bring yourself into doing this. You're not a government official. You're not someone that's going to be able to do something about it, but instead you just think, I'm going to make it my life's goal to do this. No, your life's goal should be taking care of these animals that you have there and providing something that's going to have a further environment for these animals. But you're not. You're using your platform to make you seem like a godsend for this man. There's already people out there probably investigating this. Why do you need to interject yourself with this? She wants, and then she doesn't even more so want his money. She wants all of his assets, like the trucks and the cars and everything like that. Wouldn't you think as a rescue you would want his animals? I'm sure there's even more of a legal battle to get them, but like, wouldn't you be fighting harder to get the animals instead of his assets? I don't get why she wanted so hard to take all of what he has. She wants to embarrass him, which is I'm assuming, so he doesn't have anything. But Joe says, I don't have anything. I don't own anything like this. This isn't even all my assets. There's someone else's. But you're not even going after the animals. If you're a rescue and sanctuary, shouldn't you want to be getting those animals out of there? She isn't at all. She's caring more so about embarrassing this man, which she's already done at this point, which, again, he doesn't really seem to be embarrassed about what's going on or really fazed besides the fact that he's losing all this stuff. I just don't get where her mindset is that why take all of his assets when you could be taking the animals. You should have all this money to provide for these animals and all this money to bring in these animals or relocate them into a proper sanctuary, but instead you're just going, I'm going to destroy the man for who he is. There are going to be people behind him that are going to take over what he has. You're not necessarily going to shut down what he has. And then Joe savagely, again, goes and destroys everything. He just destroys all of his assets. So even the stuff that she gets, it's not going to be worth having. But in the process of him destroying everything, which is going to lead into my next point, is Rick is filming everything. Rick is constantly filming everything that's going on. He thinks it's the greatest thing possible that he's filming everything that's going on. It's going to be great for the reality. And then he mentions, I can't wait to negotiate with networks. Why do you want to put this man out there? I don't get it. Yes, this Netflix documentary is putting him out there, but it's also showing how crazy all this is. Yeah, Rick kind of wanted to show the same thing, but Rick's doing it for such a monetary gain that it's ridiculous. Like, you're seeing how wild this man is and the lawsuits that are happening. How don't you think you're not going to get involved with any of this? You're still backing this man and providing such a platform for him that Carol's going to come right at you. Like, it's not, you're one of his cronies at this point, that it's inevitable. And then it leads into the studio burning down, which it starts to get a little more crazier at this point. Joe was supposedly at a funeral at this point. He loses all of his film, all the alligators, so anything Rick has filmed, anything he has filmed pretty much at this point is gone. It's wiped out. They catch someone on camera, which they think is Rick, because they think Rick has a motive for it, because apparently Carol had talked to him at some point, and Joe thinks, alright, Carol wanted this all burnt down. If you watch the video, it's the same kind of stature, the same kind of walking that Joe kind of does, and Joe's trying to pin this on someone else. He's trying to make it seem like Carol to have more people backing against him, or they're trying to think it's Rick. He's trying to make it seem like someone's out to get him, someone's trying to destroy him, which, again, I'm assuming a lot of animal rights activists are out there trying to do that, but the biggest issue with this is he is trying to make himself seem like the biggest victim out of all this, and trying to get, because I think he's using this distraction to make sure the courts see him as a victim, and this is all Carol. This is pissing Nike off over there, and using, trying to make it seem like, look, Carol's trying out to get me, is trying to destroy me. This is what's going on. Why am I being victimized about all this? But then you have a week earlier, Joe is filming himself, which I think is the dumbest fucking thing he could have done. He didn't realize, he goes to his lawyer because he didn't realize Rick owns everything. All the videos that he has, all of the copyrights, because Joe wasn't smart enough to read into which I probably wouldn't be either, to read into the contract that everything that Joe's filming is Rick's, is constantly Rick's, and I think Joe had realized at that point, like, holy shit, this man has been filming everything I possibly have been doing, and I'm in this legal battle with Carol that he could possibly turn all this over. What can I do to make it seem like I'm the victim in all this? And I think it's because he burned down the facility at that point. He was willing to put the animals at risk at this point, which again shows he doesn't care about the animals. He cares about his fame and his persona, which is, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, at this point, like, you're willing to put all this on the line just for your own fame and persona. You're willing to kill your animals and take down everything just so you look like a victim in this. He even, in his video after going to the lawyer hints at maybe something could happen to this footage, and Joe goes, I understand what you're saying, and then he also says in his car, I'll find 10 grand to make a name, someone to make a name for themselves. Why would you put that on footage? Why would you do that to yourself? No matter what you put out there, like, even myself I feel like I highly doubt anything would come of this, but me putting myself recording anything of this is an issue. Like, this all could be used against me at some point. This all could be, but the biggest thing is, you are in a legal battle at this point. Why would you incriminate yourself even more doing anything like this just for yourself? And then this is where Rick leaves Joe, which I don't know why it took Rick this long to leave him. Like, come on, dude. Like, you know something's going to happen. Something's getting built up. You have someone at such a high power of Carol with all this money. It's only because she has so much money. That's why she's so high up. You have someone this high up, and you're part of this organization that's possibility going to be shut down. Why are you even putting yourself into it? I get you want the reality, and you think this is your retirement. It's not going to end up well for you. There's nothing about it. There's no reason why Rick would burn down his own stuff when he has it. It's 100% Joe or someone involved with Joe because he wants to make himself look like a victim, even though he's not a victim in any of this. He's doing it again, all for his fame persona. I should probably stop touching my face with COVID-19 going around, but I'm so amped up on all this and maybe a little bit of caffeine that I can't stop. And then they go into the whole idea. He got the habitat rebuilt. $120,000 facility built for $8,000. That's a big issue right there. He gets this guy to build it just because he's allowed. This guy builds it because he's allowed to handle the animals and everything like that. So he has this guy rebuild it. So meaning he's taking whatever profits he's getting brought in to rebuild this. But where's all that other money going? I don't know how he put out there how much money he needed and everything. But I think a lot of people, even watching this, like, thinking that, I'm going to put all this money to rebuild something, when I'm sure most of that money went into his pocket, and that's all it went. He found a way to get this guy to keep making it for cheaper and cheaper. That's just a little side note. But the fact that the detective never found anything definitive, and yet Joe, at some point, it was a little bit that he mentioned, he's like, he had mentioned the person that started it must have had a sufficient amount of, I forget exactly, starter fluid or something like that. How does he know what really started this and what could have started it? It wasn't like a explosive or anything. He said it's some kind of fire starter that would have done all this, which leads me again to believe Joe's doing this to make himself seem like a victim, to distract from the courts, to make it seem like, look, I have no reason to be doing all this. This is all Carol. Why would I be doing all this? But it's most likely him. Which again, it shows that he's willing to put animals in line for his own fame and persona. That's why this episode got me so angry. So it then leads into the whole idea of the $1 million lawsuit. Joe actually contacts Howard, which it's a little, I guess you have to cross the line to kind of try to ease this out. And Howard knows this isn't economical, what they're doing, which is ridiculous. If you think this is a possibility that you could drain all your money and put it into destroying Joe, what's going to happen to all the animals that you have? Where's all this care going? Where's all this compassion going? You're more focused on destroying the man than helping what's going on around you. You're not helping the animals around you. You're helping the money back into your pockets. They think, hold on, I'm trying to reread what I put. They also mentioned something that they think Joe's going to abuse the system and somehow make money out of this. How is Joe abusing the system when you guys are filing the claims against him to make all this money off of him? Joe is the little man in this situation. There's no way he's going to be able to abuse the system to get money back out of you. There's no way the court's going to swing to you because you guys have a nonprofit. You have an organization that most people are going to back at this point. You're going after this man. Yes, it should be for the cub petting and all the other stuff, but you're more so doing it to try to embarrass him, which is ridiculous. Let's see. Like I said, Carol just wants the fame of taking down Joe. She doesn't want the tigers, the lions, everything that he has there. She just wants the fame of, look what I did, look how great I am. I'm so great that I was willing to do all this to save these animals. But you're not doing anything to save these animals. You're more so just doing it to show that you have all this money and power to take down someone like him. Let's see. And then what Joe thinks he's so smart at this point. He's like, I'm going to find my way around this. He puts the name of the zoo in John Finley, his husband, the guy with like 3 teeth in his mouth. Just because he thinks changing the name is going to restart the claims in the lawsuit, but it's not really that hard to keep moving it to the next person, which shows, again, Joe is willing to put anyone in the line of fire just so he can keep his fame up. Carol just keeps suing everyone at the zoo. She has no problem with that. There's no issue with that. They're just going to keep changing the names over and over and over. But Joe just keeps putting people in the line. He even puts his... This is where I almost stopped watching the episode. He puts his parents' names on everything. His mom's name is on every one of those bills and every one of those things, which is, again, in itself, I believe it's illegal. I don't know how he got away with that, and I don't know how he didn't get shut down for that. Like, he's putting his names on these bills. I'm assuming his mom just kept back and was like, no, I allowed him to do that. But watching the interview with his mother was so heartbreaking. Watching that she thinks her son's doing so well, which most parents are going to think, my son's doing this for the right, and someone's out to get him at this point. But she has to defend herself, and the fact that Joe is willing to put his mother in line instead of owning up to his own mistakes and be like, look, I am the issue here, I am the problem, maybe I should take full responsibility for this, but instead he keeps trying to put people ahead of him to show that, look, I'm still the victim, I'm not the issue here, you are the issue, you are the problem, you're not doing anything for these animals at this point, you're just doing it to show that someone else is out to get me, look at me, I'm the bigger person, but I'm just trying to do better. But you're not. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. This episode is long. This is going to be about an hour long at this point. So what Joe's trying to do, and this just gets harder and harder and harder to watch the show. But I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see what the outcome was, even though you kind of already know. Carol kind of starts leading in the right direction. To shut down Joe. She goes, look, with this lawsuit, you have to stop cub petting and stop breeding. Joe isn't going to be able to financially afford to pay you these monthly installments of everything, and this is where Howard kind of came in. He knew everything was seasonal, so they knew Joe was only going to make a certain amount of money in certain seasons, so they were willing to work with him at this point, like, look, certain seasons you only have to pay a certain amount of money and do this, which Howard, I kind of go back and forth if I like Howard. I don't really like him, but he's kind of working with Joe. But Carol, again, steps her foot in to go, look, no, I want all that he has. I don't care what's it going to take and what's it going to do. I don't care. Again, she mentions nothing about saving these animals this entire episode. You thought she was going in the right direction, then she takes a 180 again, that she's just, I want the money and that's it. I don't care how to get it. We're gonna get it. And this was just so upsetting. Watching at some point the one tiger, Joe increases the breeding at this point. He goes, look, we have to increase this breeding. We have to make the money with the cub petting and everything. And I'm assuming selling the animals somewhere. But they start stealing these literal born animals from the mother. It's just, I'm trying not to get upset just talking about it. It's the idea that he is willing to stop his conservation and stop his caring about these animals. He's just ripping these babies away from the mom as she's giving birth. As she's fucking giving birth. Like, come on, dude. Look at yourself. Look at who you're becoming. Look at what you're doing. This is fucking ridiculous. It's so hard not to get fired up. No one cares about these animals. They're just letting it happen. And these people are filming it and just constantly filming it. It's just, you have a standpoint at this point showing, look at what this guy is doing, look what I'm doing, what are we becoming? You should stop caring about if Joe's going to make any more money or what's going to happen at this point. Look at who you're becoming, look at what you're doing, look at what you're perpetuating. You're not doing anything for these animals at this point. And the whole idea, like, Joe should have looked at himself. When he brings these animals into the house, he's complaining about how loud they are and how they're making so much noise, and I have to go sleep in the studio because they're so loud. Because they're so loud is because you took these babies from this mother. It's mind-boggling. Like, how are you this so convoluted into yourself that you're doing this, that you don't care? You just don't care. Like, I need all this money. I don't care. Like, we're gonna make all this money. Let's just get fucking rid of these animals. Like, ugh. And then you kind of start feeling bad for some of the employees, even though they're still sticking behind them. You're watching like 25 to 50 animals feeding over one bucket of meat, and they're just kind of like, well, the Walmart trucks have been bad recently. I can't even give all these animals and everything. And you just see them kind of just putting, like the one guy says, I think it's Eric, they're just kind of putting band-aids on the issues that are going on here. If you're realizing you're at that point that you can't care for the animals that you so supposedly love, find a way out of it. Find a way to fix that issue. Don't just blame one person. You have to put the blame back on yourself at this point. You are perpetuating Joe. You are giving Joe the support. Yes, again, the whole cult mentality, you sitting there and feeling you can't leave. Find something. Find a way. Find a way to make these animals better with what they're doing, but you're not. The zoo is just absolutely going to shit at this point. And then Joe, with all this going on, Joe goes, I'm going to die a hero and liberate the animal world. How are you liberating the animal world if you can't afford or keep up with what you're doing? You aren't focusing on liberating the animal world. You're focusing on liberating yourself. You're focusing on your own persona and your own fame. That's not anything for the animal world. You're not an advocate at this point anymore. You look at yourself. Just fucking look at yourself. And this is where Jeff Lowe gets involved. Jeff fucking Lowe. It's kind of my Steve Westlake at this point. Jeff fucking Lowe. He's going to save the zoo. He's the Godfather. He's going to come in and revamp the zoo and help him out. He's going to help fight Carol. Joe's going to come back full power, and these animals are going to have the greatest thing in the world. They needed the new investor, obviously. They needed, but this guy's just coming in so he can have a place to put his animals and put his face on something to show that, look, I'm the next. The whole idea, this whole Godfather, just because he notes that his grandfather owned a circus, so he wanted to be big in the animal world and blah blah blah. And like you look at it, everyone thinks he's such a great businessman. Like some people in this country somehow get to power for being a businessman, a small loan of $1 million. Same kind of mindset is all I'm saying. But you start seeing that Joe starts getting enamored with this man because he has so much money, he has all this fame with Vegas and everything like this. Joe knows what this man is doing too. He's taking some of the cubs and Joe's supplying them with these cubs. Like, again, I get you're trying to make money, but look at yourself. You're using these animals for such a big gain for yourself. You're not doing anything to promote this. You know what he's doing. He's taking these animals in suitcases. Like, fuck yourself, dude. Putting them in suitcases just to make money off it. You don't care about these animals. You care about yourself. You care about the money. Joe and his one husband Travis go out to, I haven't really touched on the husbands. That comes up later, which I'm going to touch on. They go out to Jeff's mansion. They're so enamored with them, and Joe at this point is a puppet. I don't know if he signs it over to Jeff, or at least he gives part of the zoo to Jeff, just so, again, the lawsuits restart and they have to come after Jeff, and they know Joe thinks Jeff has all this money, but they kind of show Jeff doesn't really have all this money. He has all this rented stuff and all this kind of backing a little bit here and there, but Jeff really doesn't have this money. Yes, he can kind of put the money up front, but he doesn't really have anything to back it up. Back to this whole antagonizing thing. Jeff comes back to the conference call with Joe, even though Jeff's not allowed to be there. And Carol wants all this money. She wants to stop the cub petting and everything. All of it could have ended there. He could have been like, look, we're going to make the $5,000 payments. We're going to stop all this stuff. Because he would have Jeff at that point to pay all of it. But instead, he has Jeff antagonize the lawyer. He could have just had Jeff pay all this, and instead of stepping in at that point hurts Joe even fucking more. He could have just said he was going to stop Joe could have stopped the cub petting at this point. He could have stopped all that and just done the entertainment part of the zoo and kind of done everything to kind of show conservation for the zoo and everything like that. But instead he has Jeff antagonize them. And he knew Carol wasn't going to back down. Now you've just increased the issue even more. Now you've brought in someone else that she's going to keep going after. You could have had this backer to help you with all this, had him run the zoo and been like, look, now I have all this money to kind of provide for the animals and provide a little bit more. But instead you're like, look, we're going to take down that bitch Carol Baskin. Why? Why at this point? Make your payments, get it paid off, get her out of there, and you could have been fine. That all could have ended right there. But instead he's like, nope. Let's keep going. We're going to destroy this woman. Big news, buddy. You're not going to win. No matter how much money you have at this point, Carol's going to have more. She's going to have more power and more fight behind her to do this, which is ridiculous. again, the biggest mistake was giving Jeff this zoo. He became a puppet at this point. Joe lost his way. He lost who he was. He conned Joe, which it wasn't this hard at that point, which I get. Like, you want your zoo, you're going to find a way to do it, and you found the right person to do it. Like, good for you, buddy. Like, you fucked this dude over just to do it. But, I mean, it's karma for Joe at this point. He lost his way. He lost what he was actually doing, and it kind of serves you right. You lost your whole sight in becoming an animal advocate, and you just wanted to destroy who Carol was instead of destroying. Instead, you destroyed yourself. You completely destroyed who you were, and you can't even look at yourself at this point, which is upsetting. This episode was hard to watch. This episode, rewatching it was even harder, but I wanted to get as many notes as I could on this because I really wanted to respond to it. Even though this video is going to be an hour, I really don't expect you guys to watch the whole thing. I really appreciate it if you do, because this and the last episode are probably going to be one of the longest episodes I do, just because there's a lot to touch on, there's a lot to go through, there's a lot of different varying points to come in at, and it's upsetting to see how far Joe had turned from what he was doing to what he is now, and really just the biggest downfall of him is going after Carol and just stopped caring about the animals, and you really see how much Joe and Carol don't care about the animals at all. They care about what their social media persona is at this point. Again, thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. It gives me an outlet to kind of talk about this, and it's something that I'm so passionate about that's why I'm so fervent in different things that come on here. That's why, like, I get a little angrier, and like I get maybe some of my judgments clouded by anger, but I think it's rightfully so with what they're doing and everything. I'm probably going to be able to release maybe 1 or 2 tomorrow. My schedule gets a little weird throughout the week, so I'll try to do 1 or 2 tomorrow, and the 7th episode probably won't be, or like my last viewing and all this probably won't be until later this weekend, just because of my schedule and everything. But I think it'll give me more time to kind of delve into everything. But again, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Patty D out.